So here's an update on what I think about the economy. Obviously, inflation's a big issue. People's money is not going as far. Like I've said before, even if you make decent money, after taxes and just the regular cost of living with rent, most people that are probably under 30 don't own a home. So they're paying rent, they're paying increased prices for transportation in terms of a vehicle. Fuel prices are still high, even though the price of oil has been coming down. Fuel prices are still like $4 or $5 in many places per gallon. Food prices are way up. You go into the grocery store, eating out is way more expensive. And again, the price of housing yourself is, can be $2,000 a month just for a really basic place to live. So incomes, I think, have gone up small, but not enough to offset what inflation is and what the cost of living is. So again, you make 3 to 5% more a year, the cost of living, the price of rent, food, energy, bills, transportation, gas, insurance, it's gone up double digits at least. So you're becoming more and more poor every year. And I think a lot of people they've had enough of it. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't really go the traditional route and expect to get ahead. I might think I'm doing okay and I'm surviving, but I can't afford any of the things in the open market. I can't afford a house. Certainly it would be not a good decision to buy like a car, like a new car. And so you have to be very conscious about where you're spending money. I think younger people are not really even thinking about that. They have a short-term mindset of, I'm just going to do what I want to do today, and I'm not really going to worry about tomorrow because things are obviously very tough today. Like I have to pay my bills, I have to pay my rent, I still want to have fun, so I'm going to go out, and travel or go to restaurants or do all these things that, yeah, everyone likes to do that stuff and it's fun and it's doing different things, but if you're putting it on a credit card or you don't really have the money for it, it's like, how, is that really the best decision? It's probably not, but again, the instant gratification is, I just want to do it today and I don't really care about tomorrow. I'll deal with tomorrow when tomorrow comes. And so you got people that are older now that maybe they live like that partially, and maybe the only thing only real income they're getting is Social Security, which is not good, right? You cannot really afford to live comfortably just on Social Security. And Social Security is a supplement, but that they give maybe a 3-5% raise on the cost of living adjustment. It's just not enough for someone to comfortably live off. You can't live off $1,700, $2,000 a month pretty much anywhere in the country. Even if you were living in like a camper or an RV where you didn't have rent, it's like $20,000 a year that you'd get from the government. So that's not really a needle mover for anyone. Even if you lived in another country, $20,000, it might be enough per year to get by in some other countries, but it's still not a lot of money if you consider just the everyday costs of living. So I don't know. Again, I think the only real thing they're going to do here is continue to inflate the money supply, because the U.S. government is over $30 trillion in debt. So they're just going to continue to devalue the dollar, and that's the only way they're going to be able to continue to honor these commitments. So inflation is going to continue to be higher than it should be, and cost of things are going to get more expensive. They're still going to honor to pay whatever commitments they paid to you, or they said they would pay you, but the purchasing power of those dollars is going to be less. So that's why if you're a homeowner or you have your money in assets, you're doing much better than the average person, because all those increasing prices go into the asset prices, whether it's, gold or, I guess you could say Bitcoin. Bitcoin's run up recently, obviously very volatile, but the price of Bitcoin's going up because it's basically a hedge against runaway inflation. There's a fixed supply. Homes are a great example, right? People always need a place to live, and a lot of money is parked in real estate. So if you own real estate, at least your net worth, or your net worth on paper, right, is going up. You're not necessarily getting that money unless you own multiple properties and you're renting them out. Then you're cash flowing that property. But now with interest rates at 8% or 7%, it doesn't math out if you were to just look at the numbers on a piece of paper, right? If I'm an investor and I have $1 million and I want to buy a few houses, I'm losing money even after I put the down payment. Let's say I put 20% down on a $500,000 house. My mortgage would be $400,000. The amount of money that I can get from the rent payment is not going to cover the mortgage expense at a 7 or 8% interest rate. I'm going to have to be paying money each month. So it's upside down. And in the past, usually you get rewarded for saving up money. Hey, I put 20 or 30% down on this property. It's going to start cash flowing immediately, meaning that the money I am able to charge the tenants is going to cover all the monthly expenses of running this property, the mortgage and all the maintenance and stuff. And in the long run, 7 to 10 years or whatever, the price of the property is going to appreciate. Well, now, the price still may appreciate in 5 to 7 to 10 years. It probably will, but you're not cash flowing the property. So your reward for putting 20% down on that property is that now you have to come out of pocket even further to make the difference between the mortgage payment and the rent payment, because the tenants may be only paying $2,500 a month or $2,000 a month, and the mortgage payment is $3,500 or it's $3,000 or it's $2,800, but it's still negative, right? You're still having to pay $300, $500, $1,000 a month, in some cases even more, just to cover that difference. So real estate's pretty much dead. I mean, it's things aren't moving. There will still be some houses that move because people, have to sell, whether they get sick or, family situations or whatever. But people that are living in a house that have a 3% mortgage rate or that it's paid off, there's no pressure for them to move because they have to relocate to somewhere new. And yeah, some people might be able to pay all cash. In that case, it's fine. But a lot of people, in most of the country, they're going to have to finance it, and they don't want to trade a 3% mortgage for a 7 or 8% mortgage. It just makes their monthly expenses go up much more. And because everyone has to live somewhere, it's like, well, maybe I want to move, but it just financially wouldn't make sense. It would be too tight for me to pack up here and move somewhere else and pay a 7 or 8% interest rate, while I have this 3% interest rate. Or I'm just going to continue to rent. That's another thing. Like I'd like to own a home, but the cost to rent the house is, 40%, 30 to 40 to 50% less than the cost to own. Sure, I don't own any equity in the house, but I'm not tied to anything. I don't have a 30-year mortgage. Don't have to worry about the maintenance costs. If something changes in my life, I can leave, I can move. I'm not tied to this one property for a long period of time. And I don't have to put a big down payment or worry about a monthly, mortgage payment, right? Because the mortgage payment is going to be way more expensive than your rent. That's what I was just saying, right? You might be able to rent a place for $2,000, but if you want to buy the place, your mortgage payment is going to be $500, $1,000 more a month, and you're going to have to put down $50,000, $100,000 in cash as a down payment. So that's just some brief thoughts. It always comes back to, I guess, real estate and money. And, even if you make $200,000 a year, which obviously that's a low percentage of people, you still have to be kind of not feeling great about, what you're going to do, right? I mean, because after tax, you're making maybe 125. And then if you have any kids or any like a significant other, or let's say you're renting a nicer place, you're not going to have a bunch of disposable income, especially after food and maybe you have a car payment and all these things, right? I'm just a single person, and I don't make a ton of money, but you start throwing a couple kids, a mortgage payment, a car payment, maybe 2 car payments. If you ever want to go on vacation, I was getting an Uber driver. This was in a few months ago. I got picked up, was going back and forth to the airport and I got an Uber driver. And he was talking about how he had, I think, 3 or 4 kids and his wife. And he pretty much just started talking the whole time. Once I, showed him that I just said, hey, how's it going? Do you like doing Uber? How many rides have you done? And he just kind of started talking. But he was saying how his family's from like New York, and this was we were in Arizona. But he was saying how, every time I go on vacation, it's like at least $5,000, usually $10,000 to take my family on a vacation. And he's, I don't know what his day job was, but he was doing Uber at night. And I don't think you can make, you're not going to be making much more than like $10,000 or $20,000 probably doing Uber part-time. And he's got a wife and 2 or 3 kids, or maybe it was even 4 kids, I don't know, but they were all kind of relatively younger. So I don't know how most people are doing it. Even if you have joint income, let's say you make $250,000 jointly. Once you start, like I said, throwing on kids, mortgage payments, car payments, groceries, gas, insurance, utilities, all these things. That goes back to the credit card debt and why there's, people have a standard of living that they want to live up to, but their income doesn't support it. And so they have to bridge that gap with credit card debt, and credit card debt's at an all-time high. And those rates are at 15, 20, sometimes even 25% on credit, right? So it's not really setting yourself up to be in a good position. Me personally, like I went outside the country for the first time in my life. I'm 30 years old. So in 30 years, I never went outside the country. I did for the first time this year. So I know there's people that travel a lot and spend money traveling and going to restaurants and all that stuff. So you can still have fun and do things on that don't necessarily cost a bunch of money. If you have the money, it's like, hey, no problem, right? But if you have to go into credit card debt, or you're very much living paycheck to paycheck, it can be difficult, because if anything happens, you're going to be kind of, your back's up against the wall already. There's no buffer or anything. And in this world where things are kind of changing, you can't really rule out what would happen with AI, or jobs changing, or you have a different role, or your company gets, something changes with the company. So it's just something to think about. Plus, you want to have your money working for you in some capacity, right? When it's in real estate, it goes up a lot. When it's in the stock market, it traditionally goes up. It's not just sitting in a bank account. The banks they're still getting away with it, but I mean, on deposits, they'll give you nothing, right? If you have $50,000 in a checking account, you don't get anything for that. Historically, in the past 10 years, you've gotten nothing. So, and they'll lend that money out, right? They'll lend that money out, and they'll make a return on it, and they'll give you nothing. And if you want to take out any money, more than like $1,500 a day or whatever, they start asking you a bunch of questions. So I know I don't keep a lot of money in a bank account, because they don't give you anything for it, and it's just really to pay the minimum expenses that you'll have. And but now I'm just kind of rambling on. Anyways, let me know what you think on that real estate, inflation. A little bit of an update there. If you guys have any thoughts, put a comment down. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.